What is the best online skill to learn in 2025? How many hours of the day are you actually productive? What's one entrepreneurship myth that you wish you knew was false? Welcome back to another Q&A video with a small business owner. My name is David Winter and I run Affinity Media Group here in the UK. We're getting to the point now where I think we don't need the introductions, so we'll jump straight into the first question. Before we do that though, we've already got a few episodes of this series out, so if you haven't already seen them, do go check them out as well. Subscribe for plenty more videos coming up and make sure to drop your thoughts in the comments if you've got any answers to the questions in this video. Let's jump into it. So the first question is, how many hours of the day are you actually productive? So I got asked this before. We actually already recorded an answer to this and I said probably not very many. For the fact that I actually work 12, 14, sometimes 16 hours a day, it probably is realistic to say that I'm only productive for an actual few hours. And actually recently, I can give a more accurate answer as I bought the Made Famous by Alex Hormozi little button desk timer thing, which is in the office through there. And it turns out I'm only productive for about 2.5 of my 14-hour working days. Next question, how do you handle situations where clients want to cut budgets but still expect quality work? Now, we were actually talking about this just before we started filming, and it goes one of two ways. Sometimes you're wanting to put your prices up and they want to keep the budget as it is, and in the worst case, they are wanting to reduce the budget altogether. Now, I've had this conversation quite a few times with clients. It is always a tricky one to talk about money to begin with, especially when you know that businesses are struggling in these times at the moment, and if a business itself is struggling regardless of current environment. And what we now do is we'll try and say, look, well, maybe we just reduce the amount of output that we have, or maybe instead of trying to do 10 videos every single month, we'll do 10 videos across 2 or 3 months. So we're reducing the output, which realistically isn't actually that great for marketing in general, but at least we're still working within that budget. One thing that we're also starting to realize as a video agency is that people are of course becoming a little bit more used to creating content themselves. So we actually are now starting to focus on some of the bigger projects, the ones that they need us for. We are losing revenue a little bit in those particular situations, but we actually do want to work what's best for the client, and that's what you need to do as well. Ultimately, you still want the client to be a client in 6 months' time or 6 years' time. It's no good just trying to get that money grab for the next couple of months. So really looking after your client is actually the best bit of advice that I can give for this. Next question, love this one. If you had 250 to 300k to start a business, which would you start? Now, specifically, they're actually asking about a wine cafe or a clean skincare company. If it was the two, probably not the wine cafe. Anything hospitality, really difficult business. I don't really want to be in that space. I guess I'm starting a clean skincare brand in this one. To answer more specifically though, in terms of what I would actually do with 250 to 300k, I've already spoke about this on the channel. The next business that I want to try and buy, and the first business realistically that I want to try and buy, is a MOT or servicing station here in the UK. We have our Affinity Racing brand, which is going to be heavily tied into the automotive space, and that is where we want to start operating, not necessarily funding a venture over here from our video agency business. We want to have a business in that space that is funded by itself, and the brand and the content Affinity Racing channels down into those real world brick and mortar businesses. Hopefully that makes sense. Next question, how do you value an equity stake offer? So without going into this one too much, we'll quickly try and rattle through some of the basics. So he says that this is a startup and all startups are hugely, hugely risky. So it's all well and good that they can say we can give you 2%, you 5%, you 10%. It's always a risk. It is always a risk. So it's easier to give away equity than it is to essentially, actually do the thing and build the business. It does, however, say they've got up to 45 employees, so that suggests that maybe they are well on their way, but the standout bit of information is he says they are only 6 months old. Now, 45 employees is going to run you a run rate and salaries of about 100k a month, if not more, and so that tells me they've definitely not started from zero. They've either started with money or they've had major investment, and at some point they're going to owe that money back. So that's also one really clear thing to get down in writing from the owners of the business. You want to see an exit plan, an exit strategy. If it's going to get sold to a major investment or VCs, or if they've already had VCs invested, they're going to owe that money back. And so if they sell the business for 100 million and say they owe 70 million back, your 2% of 100 million is 2 million quids in. We're all happy. But if you've got only 2% of 30 million, then that is a far lot less. And so that is where you need to be careful Equity stakes are all well and good, but you really need to evaluate what the actual value is. So the next question here, how do you get over the what if it fails in business? So a little bit of anxiety, stress, worry, all the usual things that you get when you start up a business, and especially if you're going to take the leap of faith into that becoming the thing that pays your salary, pays your lifestyle, is very, very difficult, very, very stressful. I've had many of those moments of the what if it fails. I think the sensible thing to do is obviously have, if you can do, or from a previous job, 3 to 6 months living expenses. So you've got that cushion. That's always one thing that will set many people at ease, the financial burden. In terms of actually running the business in the day-to-day, the what if it fails probably hits you at least 10 times a day, or certainly a few times in every single week. And your end vision has to be the thing that sort of gets you through that. You can't really rely on a motivation or a motivational podcast or a motivational 60-second Instagram reel or a quote. That just doesn't get you through the day. Your vision of what the business looks like when it's finished or when it's successful, and the life that you get out of that and the life that you want to live and hopefully one day will live, has to be the thing that pushes you through. Next question, what is the best online skill to learn in 2025? Now, there's a few answers to this one. I think the really obvious one is probably going to be AI. Crypto's on the run at the minute, but let's not forget it. Let's forget about that. AI is going to be one huge thing that if you've not already, even as a business owner, never mind somebody, an employee want to learn skills, need to be looking at. This is probably the next 2 or 3 years is the big transition, the big curve that we are going to start seeing, and understanding, first of all, how to actually simplify business processes through AI, the benefits that it has, not replace your job, but make you perform better, is where you need to be looking at. And I do also think that actually content creation, not necessarily the really specifics of filmmaking and video production and editing, but actual content creation, really good, valuable content marketing, I think, again, the next 2 or 3 years is going to be the big shift for businesses. I saw an amazing video recently with Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank over in the States, and he actually made this very point that he's now paying more to his content creators than he actually is to some of his top level senior management, because that is where the value is in content. That is where the value is in marketing, in brand, and building the relationships with your audience online. So they're probably the two main things to look at, AI and content. If you do something that's combining the both, you're on to an absolute winner. So here's an interesting one. Would you rather be a landlord or a business owner? And it's an interesting question, this. I get the feeling this is a person that's not done either, I think. That's just my impression. A landlord seems to be the easy go-to, quick money, passive income, easy lifestyle kind of thing. The reality is that landlord was probably a business owner first. Where else are they going to get the money to invest in a property other than inheritance? A business owner, first and foremost, is the thing that you need to create, the thing of value that is going to bring in the cash flow. That for me is absolutely where I want to be. I absolutely want to be a landlord at some point, but realistically, here's the curveball. It's not going to be for some boring buy-to-let properties or HMOs and all this sort of stuff. That for me is pretty boring, no real interest. I don't really want the money grab of buying a property and just charging someone double the mortgage and pocketing the rest. Not a fan of that, even though that's not quite how it works. I would rather be in commercial property that my business operates out of, most importantly and more especially, so that you can then leverage that to help grow the business and lend against that when it comes to banks and funding. That for us has been one of the biggest challenges. That would be, if we get to that point, make business life a bit easier. But then also a commercial property, the returns are so much better, the actual clients or tenants are so much better. Everything about commercial property is so much better. What's one entrepreneurship myth that you wish you knew was false? I think when I first started, I fell into the myth or the trap that running your own business, you get the time freedom, more money and flexibility. And realistically, only one of those things ever happen. You can make loads of money, but you've got to work really, really hard for that. And chances are you're not going to have too much time and flexibility. And realistically, if you take all the time in the world off and you barely work any hours of the week, fact of the matter is, when you're building a business or starting it, you're not going to make very much money. I chose favouring the money and basically worked every single hour for the first 5 years. I kind of say that paid off, but I definitely wish I could have struck a bit of a better balance. I think the notion and the myth that running your own business is easy and you don't have a boss and you can work from a laptop on a beach or work from Dubai and all of this sort of thing is a falsified marketing ploy on Instagram and the likes to basically sell you a course. Whenever you're seeing those sort of stories and that myth being portrayed in the real world, yes, those people do exist and they have managed to achieve that. But when you're looking at their Instagram posts, what are they posting that for? They're normally only one post away from selling you a business course. Next question, someone saying, what is the best way to automate marketing? For a little bit of context, they're saying that they are a founder and a developer, so they're much more comfortable with coding than they are the marketing. Now, before I absolutely rip this person to pieces, I absolutely do not believe that you can automate marketing. I do believe that you can systemize your creativity and systemize your content, but you can't automate creativity. That is just absolutely impossible. Maybe down the line, AI will do that for us, but right now, I don't see that happening. So what you want to do is have your ideas, have your content, have your marketing, have your videos, your plans, all of that sort of stuff. And maybe, yes, AI can help you write some scripts with that. But what you actually want to do is be organized. This is one of the biggest things that I've learned. We run everything through Asana for all of our videos, all of these question Q&A videos, the micro clips that come from them, all of the little 60-second reels and things that we're recording for social media, and all of the big YouTube videos that we do as well. And that's across all of our brands, Affinity Racing, this brand, and my drum channel. Everything basically runs through a big fancy spreadsheet. This organization is what helps systemize our marketing, our creativity, our content, but it doesn't automate it. It does though mean we can have one idea and have 10 iterations of that, or we have a concept, a series, and then we have 100 episodes all within that. Very much taking the Gary Vee episodic approach to content, and that really helps us stay organized, keep fresh with plenty of new ideas, and get them out at a rate of consistency. The other thing to mention within that is that you want to be consistent within your things like brand guidelines, your logos, your fonts, all those sort of things, because the more time that you spend deliberating over all of those things, every single post that you put out, that is also what is stifling your marketing. So good brand guidelines, good brand consistency, set that in stone at the beginning. Don't spend too much time on it, but set it in stone, run with it, stick with it, and then be really super efficient. So last question on this one isn't actually a question, absolute lie. It is a statement, but it's a good one. And it says on this Reddit forum, a reminder that you're probably going to be poor for a long time before you see significant success. I absolutely agree with this. This is not to push the hustle culture kind of life, although I do agree with it in a certain extent, but it is a reminder that you're not going to set up your business and be successful by the following week. You will not launch a business on Monday and be a millionaire by Friday, unless in the meantime you win the lottery on the Wednesday. The problem that I had when I set up my business is that I thought pretty short term, and I did actually think 6 months time or a year's time, my business will be absolutely flying. I'll be making more money than I can ever imagine. I'll have a big social media agency. I thought we were going to be absolutely huge, taking over the world. And I realized 5 years on, still hadn't done any of that and only just hired my first employee. And so that for me is a statement I absolutely agree with. And to go back to one of the earlier questions about a myth that I wish I knew sooner, that's probably one of them as well, is that just actually not understanding the correlation of business and time and how long something takes. We're 5 years in now and only just feel like we're getting started and on the right path. And that shows me just how far away we were when I very, very first started as a freelancer. So there we go then. That is another episode of this little Q&A series that we've been doing. I've been really enjoying this sort of thing. I grew up, or a lot of my early days of understanding business was from the Ask Gary Vee show. So I feel like I'm Newcastle's answer to Gary Vee at the moment with this. So really enjoying it. Drop your questions in the comments, and we will do our very best to answer them. We will see you in the next video. Make sure to subscribe. Plenty more videos on the way, along with vlogs and days out, behind the scenes of all the jobs that we've been on as a video agency, as well as documenting the next 50 years as we build our other brands online. Hope to see you in the next video. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you soon.